Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. Batting leadoff, we have perhaps the only watch that could upstage Godzilla. It is the 2022 titanium and platinum 20-piece limited edition Grand Seiko Kodo constant force tourbillon. Kodo for heartbeat in Japanese. This watch was both the first project of the new elite cadre Atelier Ginza and the first tourbillon by Grand Seiko. And if you're asking what about 2016's Fugaku tourbillon, remember that was a Crador product, and that was accurate to -10 plus 15 seconds a day. This is accurate to +5 -3 on the wrist. Actually, to be precise, it's +5 -1 on the wrist. It's +5 -3 in the test, but more on that in a moment. This watch is a landmark. Winner of the GPHG Chronometry Prize for 2022, a huge and significant prize victory for a Japanese watch at the Oscars of watchmaking. This was a deserving winner. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. You can see how well it wears. Large, but not too large. 13.3 millimeters thick, but you can see how much of that is the bubble-like sapphire. Across the wrist, the lugs are not out beyond the edge of my wrist, and you can see that well. The case, which is hand-polished on a spinning tin plate, the Zaratsu tin plate method, is surprisingly both titanium and platinum, with the outer case being scratch-resistant titanium and the inner case being fine platinum. As a result, it weighs more like a platinum watch in the hand. It feels more like platinum than titanium, and that might be because the entire clasp is also made of platinum. Folding clasp, twin trigger. We have this unique Himeji Corazon calfskin, similar to the material used on traditional suits of Japanese armor. It has also been lavished with black urushi lacquer to give it two different tones and a shiny sheen on the grain of the material. Taking a quick look, you can see it's been thoughtfully designed with a little recess in the case band for the strap, so it has an unimpeded range of motion. The watch, surprisingly, 100 meters water resistant, made of platinum and titanium, two mainspring barrels in parallel, yielding 72 hours of power reserve. You can see there's a Grande Sonnerie style ratchet for the mechanism, so as I wind, you can see how it operates right there. We have a tourbillon featuring both a 1-minute tourbillon and a remontoir d'égalité constant force that operates on a 1-second basis. So each second it uses energy from the barrels to top off the escapement. So the barrels don't drive the escapement directly. So for the duration, we have constant amplitude about the balance and thus very accurate timekeeping. You can also see that we have one ruby jewel on an arm of the tourbillon. That is a deadbeat second, so we can use that as our seconds hand. We also have a power reserve indicator, a dial with really unrivaled depth, unless we're talking Grubel Forsey or Ferdinand Berthoud, and this watch warrants consideration if you're looking at either of those. You could see the keyless works immaculately finished, the bridge adjacent featuring not one but two super sharp interior angles on that jewel right above the keyless works. You can see that the barrels have been solarized, that the hands and the indices micro-faceted, diamond polished, and hand executed, placed by hand. Turn it all over. Take a look at the ratchet wheels on the back. They've been solarized and interior beveled. All screw heads are polished, and note the use of proprietary screw design that can take and hold more torque than a traditional flathead. Adjusted to 6 positions, giving inaccuracy no place to hide. You can see it says 16th note feel, and that is because when you combine the 8 beat per second rate of the primary escapement with the deadbeat system, you wind up with an approximation of a 16th note or semi-quaver. So that's what that is describing. This watch portends great things going forward for Grand Seiko and the elite Atelier Ginza unit. The watch that you see right here is an incredible feat of engineering and fine finish, and the closer you get, the more impressive it becomes, which is the polar opposite of a lot of expensive Swiss watches. This is the Kodo constant force tourbillon, 43.8 millimeters in diameter, 50.3 from lug tip to lug tip. That is 43.8 millimeters in diameter, 50.3 from lug tip to lug tip. All right, so we may as well bring back Gojira. Here we are. This is a watch that came out in 2019 to mark 65 years of Japan's most famous cinematic ambassador. On the back, you can see the original 1954 version of Godzilla tearing down the famous clock tower in Ginza's Central District. You can also see 650 pieces limited edition, officially licensed by Toho Co., which is the cinematic parent of Godzilla, 1954 to 2019. All of this in their high-intensity titanium. We have 200-meter water resistance, and then we have quite a bit of luminescence on the dial side, which we will visit now. As you can see, glowing like Godzilla's atomic breath, no shortage of detail, including a loomed counterweight to the seconds hand, and this is spring drive. You can also see there's a rayon pattern to the dial that is a more direct reference to Godzilla's breath. Now, if you've seen a lot of Godzilla movies, you know that Godzilla's hide, especially when heavily irradiated, can be sort of a, I would say, a mottled red and black, and that's exactly what's reproduced here in calf skin, right along with the texture. If you remember Godzilla King of the Monsters, one of the American Monsterverse versions of Godzilla, you'll recognize that this looks an awful lot like Godzilla when he's absorbed a lot of radiation. The case, though 44.5 millimeters in diameter, is actually fairly easy to wear because it's all sapphire and titanium. I'll throw it on my wrist so you can get a good look at it. It's actually not that big, though it is bigger than the Kodo. The watch is not particularly thick, but it is broad, and you can see that to good effect. I would recommend it for a wrist of at least my size. I think I could wear this. I know a 17 centimeter circumference wrist could wear it. Taking a quick look at the buckle, you can see that it is fairly straightforward. Twin trigger release, single fold, stainless steel, though make no mistake, the watch is titanium. Taking a quick look, the watch has spring drive, so the perfectly smooth glide of the seconds hand is one of the distinctive features. Automatically wound 72-hour power reserve. Note that this is the 9R15, though you can't really see it behind Godzilla here. That is a supercharged version of spring drive. Instead of being accurate to 10, well, it is accurate to 10 seconds, but 15 seconds is standard spring drive. This is 10 seconds a month. So 10 seconds a month of imprecision, meaning this is actually a completely mechanically driven watch that is more accurate than a standard quartz. Standard quartz typically 15 seconds a month. Now, I have a super rare opportunity here, the likes of which even I have never encountered before. Two historic pieces from French architect and watch designer Alain Silberstein. Now, right here, we have the Krono Classic from the late 90s. This features a 7751 with a 24-hour secondary dial moon phase and complete calendar, as well as solid blocks of luminant for the indices, 38 millimeters in diameter, limited edition. You can see on the reverse of the steel case. There are 500 pieces, and it is 100 meters water resistant. A genuine French-made watch made in Besançon, the traditional heartland of Swiss or French watchmaking, along with Morteau. So Morteau and Besançon, where you typically find traditional French watchmaking, unless we want to go way back to the Parisian heyday of the early 19th and 18th century. But in the modern era, Alain Silberstein has had his own whimsical take on watches. A little bit of Dada, a little bit of Bauhaus, a little bit of De Style. You can see it in the primary shapes and primary colors that are all over this watch. And by the way, it's only about 42 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip. So one of the most wearable 38 millimeter watches you will ever encounter. Sits easily on my wrist. Again, a genuine French-made watch. You can see there's a little calendar adjuster on the side. It is a beautifully simple little thing, and Silberstein is relaunching his brand. He's already created a setup with a watchmaker with whom he's partnered to service the older watches. So yes, through Silberstein, it is now possible to get these serviced once again. And he was very thoughtful, including a little fingernail notch in the crown so that you can more easily withdraw it for setting of the watch. But that's not all. Here we have the Krono Marine. Now this is a full-blown 200-meter diving version of Silberstein's Krono Classic and Krono Bauhaus. Mechanically very similar, but you can see now we have a 120-click unidirectional rotating dive bezel. And you can see, we will demonstrate this so there can be no doubt. that this watch features an original factory tritium dial. It goes dark very quickly. You could see from the tone of the genuine patina on the dial, whereas this one right here, now we're back to the Chrono Classic, has a more modern type of luminant. This is Luminova for the dial. You can see the hands are original tritium. We will jump back, turn the lights on, and the watch, mechanically very similar. If you note, you can see the splayed spoke design of a high-grade 7751. When you have that splayed spoke, you're dealing with top or chronometer grade. And if you look very closely here, you will see, it is in fact a chronometer. In fact, both of them are. Beautifully whimsical watches. Silberstein understood something that most of his competitors, even in the independent scene, did not understand, that luxury watches are inherently frivolous, and since they are, they may as well be fun. I think between Alain Silberstein, Edouard Milan of Moser, and Max Busser, you have three people who, past and present, have understood this better than anyone. What I can say is even among that triumvirate, Silberstein had a style all of his own. He's become an in-demand designer who's worked with everyone from MB&F itself to the likes of, well, do you remember the Subcraft that he created for Romain Jerome? Probably the best Romain Jerome watch ever made. This watch is Silberstein to a T. Whether you pick this one or this one, you cannot go wrong. I will say this right here is a 40 millimeter watch, whereas this right here is a 38. So just keep in mind that they are different sizes. Well, let's say you want something modern for your diving. Well, you can go with JLC's hugely underrated 2007 launch, the Master Compressor Diving Chronograph, a manufacturer's 750 series twin-barrel automatic with 65-hour power reserve, column wheel, and vertical clutch. We have the now legendary compressor keys. 1/2 turn, and it's unlocked. 1/2 turn, 1,000 meters. And you can see it's color-coded. White you're tight, and blue you're through. There is an operation indicator on the dial. You can see it's half blue, half white, so you know your diver is operating. One of the chunkiest dive bezels I have ever encountered. The feel is second to none. You can also see the unusual use of a pulsation scale on the dial, but if you think about it, that can actually help you gauge oxygen deprivation. That makes a lot of sense. Dive watches with tachymeters, those are the ones that don't make sense. Taking a quick look in the dark, no shortage of luminescence, and you can see that the operation indicator is actually a lot more evident and easier to recognize in motion than would be a luminescent seconds hand. The watch featuring a vulcanized rubber-coated titanium bracelet. Take a look. Every single link removable. This is a highly sought accessory on JLCs from the 2000s. You can see that there is a double fold clasp with 4 release triggers, and there's a micro adjust on each side. You can see it's about 2.5 millimeters. This is what it looks like when it is retracted, and this is what it looks like when it is deployed. Each side has that micro adjustment, and the watch has been through the Master 1000 Hours control, not just a test of chronometry, but also of water resistance, winding efficiency, power reserve, shock resistance, and durability. And this watch, 44 millimeters in grade 5 titanium, assuredly, features integrated end links, so there's a very smooth and natural mating between the bracelet and case. And yeah, I could absolutely wear this. I find it less inherently comical than the subsequent Master Compressor Diving Navy SEALs, which, let's be frank, seemed a little bit too silly for words. Do we really think Navy SEALs wearing watches like this into combat? Well, who knows? Check out my interview with Rob H. over on 1916 Studios. He actually did wear his Rolex Deep Sea in combat, so I suppose you could. But I can tell you, having been in the Navy and gone through boot camp, nobody is getting issued a JLC. Therefore, I prefer the non-Navy SEALs version of this watch. It just seems to be played a little bit more straight-faced. All right, so that's that. Now let's take a look at what could be described as the polar opposite, albeit from the same maison. This is the rarely seen yellow gold version of the rarely seen Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Calendar. Now note, this is not the Master Moon, because it doesn't have the moon phase, it has a crosshair small seconds. We have a lunette style date, we have Dauphine hands, we have tri-Arabic numerals and dart style indices. We do have a little bit of lume. We have a 37mm case in yellow gold with an individual plaque on the back attesting to the watch having passed through the Master 1000 hours control, which is over 41 days and quite exacting. And it is, again, a fully cased up watch test. Full folding clasp. This is a 1990s classic from JLC, a great way to get into truly handmade horlogerie watchmaking while still retaining a little bit of the reliability that comes from a bigger brand that has the support and financing of a large luxury group behind it to provide parts and service for not just the life of the owner, but the life of the watch. This is a watch that gives you gorgeous 1990s proportions and dimensions with complication and the JLC pedigree. And while we rarely see these in steel, maybe 2 times a decade we'll see this in yellow gold. So a very, very special watch. And again, the fact that it is yellow gold and 37mm, making it feel very, very of the 90s without being dated in any way. A super cool watch. So now I have something extremely special and extremely rare. This was made in 10 pieces. For the 2020 model year, this is the last of the Octa UTCs. FP Journe launched his travel time watch in 2011, discontinued it in 2020, and as a send-off, there were 10 made with blued gold dials in a platinum case, and 10 made with blued gold dial in rose gold cases. And yes, this is blued white gold, so it's a very hefty watch with a gold dial, a platinum case, and a rose gold movement. What you're looking at here, we actually have 2 superimposed sapphire discs, one of which has been painted with the images of the time zones and the land masses of the world. We have a power reserve indicator, 120 hours chronometric, though in fact this automatic winding movement, when fully wound, will run for 160 hours before it actually stops. But within 0 to 120, it will keep best time. We have 5N red gold numerals and indices and 2 coaxial hour hands. One makes a circuit every 24 hours, one every 12 hours. We have a quick set system here. So if you wish, you can quick set that secondary time zone by setting up your current time zone adjacent. We also have +1, -1 to account for summertime and a little index on the side to make that selection. But you can see I've also got a quick set for the date, so I can rapidly cycle the date using the crown in the intermediate position. So I can adjust both date and travel time function using the crown. On the back, solid rose gold movement, free sprung, 3 Hertz beat rate, a very large balance, and it has a inertia of 10.10 milligrams per centimeter squared. And then you could see solid gold bridges and plates, 18 karat, and then 22 karat Grand Orge or barley corn guilloche cut winding mass, 5-position adjustment, the high horology and chronometer standard, case, dial, and movement built by François-Paul Journes. 3 companies, Cadranier de Genève, Boîtier de Genève, and then his primary factory on Rue de la Synagogue in central Geneva. So this watch is all Journe. Again, a 10-piece limited edition, the last and most exclusive of the Octa UTCs. 47.6 millimeters from lug to lug, about 10 millimeters thick and 40 millimeters in diameter. I have here a 2016 version of a watch that originally launched in 2010. This is the Patek Philippe 5170 chronograph. Now, this is the 5170R. The R in rose gold featuring lovely Breguet-style Arabic numerals that first became available on the 5170 back in 2013, but we wouldn't get the silver dial rose gold Breguet combo until 2016. Now, it is 30 9.4 millimeters in diameter, about 11.1 millimeters thick, and 47.1 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip. So it's actually a fair bit smaller than the 5070 that preceded it. Easy to wear on my wrist. You can see it's a nice fit, comfortable, flat, flush. It'll slide underneath the cuff. It's a watch suitable for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. On the back side, everything you expect from Patek Philippe. A lot of people don't recognize this, but this watch does feature hacking seconds. Caliber 29-535 Petite Seconde. It features a black polished and capped column wheel with a lateral clutch, a manual wind 65-hour power reserve, 6-position adjustment, a pawl-based instantaneous minute jumper, 4 Hz beat rate, free-sprung Gyromax style balance with an overcoil hairspring, and you can see finishing that will rival anything from the fatherland. Lange does not have a monopoly on movement finish, not for chronographs, not in a world where this exists. And again, it is very compact and quite a bit slimmer than just about any Lange chrono. A lovely statement of what Patek Philippe does so well, and guaranteed to run no worse than -3 + 2 seconds from the factory, with column wheel feel to die for. All right, we finish with something that at first glance may be relatively simple. What's 34.5 millimeters, manual wind, built in the late 1990s, and features a snap case back? It is this, Vacheron Constantin's Historiques. This model, known as the top wind, it's reference 92012, was built in the late 1990s, and you could see, try to get some light on it right here. This example has a rare watch, lapis lazuli dial, a JLC caliber 818 here, improved and finished and regulated by Vacheron to become Vacheron caliber 1014/2, 21 jewels, manual wind, 40-hour power reserve, 18,000 vibrations per hour with small seconds, and a lovely bullhead style winder. This is nicknamed the top wind. You could see that the lugs are waifishly thin, the case incredibly slender, the watch beautifully proportioned, Sigma dial, old school, indicating the presence of gold hands, gold logo, and gold indices, with diamonds on top of lapis lazuli. And because the watch is not terribly large, the lugs can have a wonderfully broad span, and I've long said that Vacheron's most distinctive styling tradition is not a particular dial or case design or even a model line. It's its extravagantly beautiful lugs. Some are fine and waifish, some are massive and severe, some are rounded and angular, but all of them have visual poetry. And you can see from the thin profile to the beautiful curvature, these lugs are no exception. Easy to wear, and because of the substantial lugs, it doesn't seem too small on a man's wrist. This is a man's watch. It just harks back to a kinder, gentler period in Swiss watchmaking when it was considered to be solid, strong, silently graceful to wear something of modest dimensions but beautiful proportions, and this watch definitely has both. If you love this watch, reach out to us, tmosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.